Hey everyone, it's Monday and time for another Monday Mastery, and I'm back in Kansas City. I'm sorry I missed you all last week. I forgot that it was Memorial Day, the day we remember the veterans that gave everything for our freedom and my ability to do this and your freedom to do the things that you wanted to do. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed Memorial Day weekend. I hope you had a great week last week and a fun weekend this past weekend. Hey, Addie, happy Monday to you also. Thanks for joining in. And it was incredibly hot up north. After all this time that I've been complaining about how cold and how crappy the weather is, it was 90 degrees on Saturday and high 80s on Friday, and it just either age or the fact that I've been in air conditioning so much, I've forgotten. It just kind of sapped the energy out of me this past weekend. But I was able to sit with friends and enjoy a couple of adult beverages while we just sat and watched the lake at the campground. And hey, Don, how are you doing? Glad you're here. And it was just an enjoyable time getting caught up with one of my best friends from high school. So anyway, let's get going on today's topic. And over the weekend, I was having an interesting kind of a texting conversation through a Facebook site that I'm on, and I was talking with a woman and it's so typical, and it's probably typical of about 90% of the people that I talk to. She had a greater knowledge of the things she didn't want in a relationship, and almost no idea of what she wanted in her ideal or extraordinary relationship. And so that kind of got me to thinking. It's a topic that keeps popping up for me, and um, it's amazing. And I know that when I first dated and I first met my ex, I didn't have any idea of what I wanted. It just seemed like, yeah, it was an okay fit, and let's go. Let's see if we can make a go of it. And as I was going through my divorce and coming out of my divorce, I recognized, well, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be, uh, you know, a better focus on what to look for when my marriage is over, and I had this had my rose-colored glasses on as I became single, and thought, yeah, 9 months I'm going to be with my soulmate, and I'm going to live happily ever after. Well, it's 11 years and I'm still looking. So, it's one of those things that but let me take a step back. I did recognize early on, as I became divorced, that I needed to be crystal clear about what I wanted in my next relationship. So I made my must-have list, and I also made my deal breaker list. And what I have found is for myself and for so many of my clients, that when you're crystal clear about what you want in a relationship, you don't waste a lot of time and emotional energy in the wrong places. Let's see. Hey Trish, thanks for joining in. Glad to see you're here. Addie says, I have the same issue as well. I know some things that I would like in a soulmate, but I know more of what I don't want. That that is what I noticed. I didn't like in the previous relationship. And Addie, that is so common because we walk out of a relationship and um, we see all the negative things that we don't want in the next relationship. And this fits right into the conversation I was having with the woman this weekend on Facebook. And what I try to convey is that, and she recognized that her list of things she doesn't want is a negative outlook, and it brings negativity to the search. Hi, Susan. Thanks for joining in. Glad you're here. And so consequently, when you're focusing on all the negative things, when you're saying these are the things that I don't want, guess what you find? You find the things you don't want. And then you're thinking, well, where are all the good guys, or where are all the good women? And because our brains are wired to focus on the things that are to seek out the things we're focused on. Let me add. He's got my list of don't wants isn't that long. Isn't that long as my must-haves. Well, that's good. I'm glad that switched around, because the gal I was talking with the lady I was talking with this weekend, she had a fairly long list of don't wants or deal breakers, and what I suggested to her is to take that list and flip as many of them around to a positive or to a must-have. And for those of you that aren't familiar with the must-have list, or what I define as your must-have list, it's the list of non-negotiable characteristics that you want in your next relationship. And when I say non-negotiable, I mean non-negotiable. If you have a list of 20 must-haves on your list, and the guy you're seeing meets 19 of those 20, what do? The first word out of your mouth should be next. And you're probably saying, Rick, that sounds so harsh, but he might have some other things. No, because if these are 20 must-haves on your list, then if he only has 19, what you're doing automatically is settling. Hang on one second. Addie asks, so for a height above 5'8", how would you make that positive? Very simple. I would say must be 5'8" or taller. Or if it's above 5'8", maybe you start with must be 5'9" or taller. And it's very easy to turn some of these things around. If you don't want to date a smoker, rather than saying no smokers, you might flip it around and say must be smoke free, must be tobacco free. So there are a lot of easy ways just to reword it so that you're focusing on the positive. And one of the reasons you want to get these things on the positive side of your list is so that it's the positive things you're focusing on. Just think about buying a car. When you go car shopping and you think you've decided, you think you found the car that you want, but you want to think about it overnight. Think about your drive home. What is it you start seeing on the road? And I'll use a Ford Escape or a Ford Edge as an example. You start seeing the Ford Edge everywhere, and primarily in the color that you're looking at. And you start to think, whoa, there's a lot of Ford Edges out here. And the reason you're seeing that is because that's what your mind is focusing on. So every time a Ford Focus or a Ford Edge comes into focus, so to speak, you spot it. Your eye, your brain directs your eye in that direction. So and the same thing happens with the characteristics that you're looking for in a relationship. When you start focusing on the things that you want, and need and desire in a relationship, that's when you're going to start finding them, and you're going to start ignoring the the people that don't meet those qualities. Hey, Shar, thanks for joining in. Glad to see you're here. Susan says it's no problem thinking negative. Mary Poppins, just turn it around. I want instead of I don't want. Exactly. And but so many of us, and you're so right. It is so easy to get sucked into a negative mindset. Oh, she had these terrible qualities, or oh, he just, he made me crazy because he did this and this and this, and I never want somebody to do that in a relationship again. So it's critically important to future relationships, or to future dating, that you're focusing on the positive, because you don't want to waste a lot of time seeking out people that aren't going to be right for you. Let's see, Brandy. Hey, Brandy, thanks for joining in. Brandy says, this is an interesting take on height. I had never dated a man who was around my height, as I prefer taller men. Guess who I'm in an extraordinary relationship with? Someone who is an inch taller than me, and he's amazing. I'm so glad I was open to this. Awesome. And everybody's, and that brings up an interesting point, Brandy. Everybody's wants and needs or and desires are different. It depends on and in your case, height was not a must-have, or I'm guessing it wasn't a must-have. It was a would-be nice to have. And those are two separate lists. And that's one of the things in the conversation I was having with the woman this weekend, is I tried to share with her that if there are things that would be nice to have, and I always use dating a millionaire would be nice, or getting involved with someone that makes $1 million a year would be nice to have, but it doesn't necessarily fall on my must-have list. So you have to take a look at the things, and your must-have list again is based on the absolute non-negotiable characteristics that you want in a relationship. The would-be nice to haves, those are great, but when you focus on the must-haves, the non-negotiable characteristics, you'll find that the people you date will either meet your expectations, or they won't. And if they don't, you can quickly and politely end the relationship and say, "Yep, this isn't the relationship I'm looking for." And it's that simple. It keeps you focused. It keeps you out of dating and searching and getting into relationships that, well, I kind of like this characteristics. I'm not so crazy about this. It keeps you out of those types of relationships, because you don't. Because you know exactly what you're looking for, and you don't spend a lot of time in relationships or trying to make a relationship work. Susan says, I don't think you can change the basic requirements. Well, no, you can't. And I'm assuming your basic requirements are loyal, loving, good morals and values. So there are a number of things that will never change. Now, a couple of things on my must-have list have changed, just because I've become 11 years older than I was when I first started my list. And Shar says, his butt must not be glued to the sofa. There you go. And I I would change that around a little bit, Shar, to must be physically active, but that you put a chuckle on my face. Hey, Mike, thanks for joining in today. Good evening, Rick. There's a lot of women in my local dating group who are offered that, who are offended that some men state a preference for skinnier women, yet they freely profess they'd like a taller man. Why do you think there's a disconnect there, especially when height is a physical trait that can't be changed? Well, and again, everybody has, Mike, everybody has their own personal preferences. If a woman is offended that a guy wants a thinner woman, well, let her be offended. Number one, that's her right, but she's also not recognizing that just because let me rephrase that. She's taking offense to the fact that she's not an ideal match for everyone that comes past her on the computer screen, or anybody that she dates. And I found that happens. That people think that they're a great match for everyone. And I even thought that way back when. And one night I was scrolling through profiles I think it was probably on Match, and I'm thinking, oh man, I'd be a great catch for any one of these women. And then it just dawned on me as I'm scrolling through, because none of them were appealing to me. And wait a minute, if these women are not a great match for me or a great catch for me, what makes me think I'm a great catch for any of them? And it was that realization that has caused me to have a lot of adult conversations with people. It's just not right. You're a great woman. Ladies, you might say you're a great guy, but this just isn't the right relationship. And so if somebody's offended by your particular wants and needs and desires, or your must-haves, then let them be offended. The way I look at it is, Mike, you dodged a bullet. So, hey, Lindy, thanks for joining in. Glad you're here. Addie says, so with online dating, would you list must-haves on a profile, or would it be best to leave those sort of things off in order to not come off picky or possible prospective good men? Then weed them out as you start conversing. What's your take? I generally don't share. I've got a couple of takes on that. And hey, Teresa, thanks for joining in. And my general preference, or my general rule of thumb, is I will list a couple of my most important must-haves. In my case, must be a Christian, and secondarily must be politically conservative, because those are two big things, and I just don't want to fight those. I just don't want to fight those battles every day with someone. And whether you agree with me or disagree with me, those are my preferences. And when I've stated, in the first conversation with one woman, she just when she found out that she made a statement about she wouldn't date anybody that's conservative, and I said, okay, that's fine, I wish you all the best. And she came back with about 3 or 4 text messages on the website and just ripped me a new one. And all I did was say, okay, that's fine, we're not a good match. It was nice talking to you. So and some people get very offended if you recognize that you're not a good fit. And so you have to be prepared for that. But I would list a few things, but in general, when I'm writing an online dating profile for someone, we're just hi, this is who I am. This is what I like, and that'll be one short paragraph, and then a second paragraph. This is what I'm looking for in a relationship, and I usually hold off on going through my whole list until probably the second or third date, and then we start talking about what are you looking for in a relationship, and what are your must-haves, what are your deal breakers, and start going through that. And I've done it as early as the first date, and it can be an interesting conversation. It can also be the end of the exploratory process, because if we're going through both of our must-have lists, it's we can quickly recognize whether we're on the same page with each other. And if we're not on the same page, let's just be adult about it and move on. Life is too short to try to get people to conform to what it is we want. There's too many other people to meet, and that are much better suited for each of us. So it's not a do or die situation every time we date. In creating your profile, you can put in a couple of your must-haves, but those I think are, and depending on how many you have, but those are probably best left for a date or a face-to-face meeting, or the coffee or cocktails, or a couple of dates in. And so the online dating profile should be, in my opinion, short and sweet, because when you're looking at a lot of profiles or going through a lot of profiles, while you can get a lot of information from some people, they tend to write an essay about who they are, what they like, and what they're looking for. It's just hard to get all that in. And then there are some sites like Bumble and gosh, what's the other one? I forget. But sites like Bumble, they only give you so many characters. It's kind of like a Twitter tweet that you can only type in so many characters, and then you're out of room. So each site is going to be a little bit different. So I hope that was a long answer to a short question. And I don't know, Teresa, I don't know if I said hi to you, but if I didn't, I'm sorry. If I did, well, hello again. Brandy says, my best advice with online dating is to be exactly who you are. Don't try to make yourself who the person is looking for. I've tried this early on, and it doesn't work. Be your awesome self. Oh, that is so correct, Brandy. When you try to make yourself out to be different than what you are, guess what? You're going to get found out. You're going to, if you say that you're 6 feet, they're going to find out if you're 5'5". And there can be nothing good that comes from lying in a profile. Zero zip nada. I've met a woman online, and this was several years ago, and she said that she lived in a certain area, a certain town in central Missouri. And then as I questioned her and on some of the things she was telling me, I said, well, I thought you lived here. Well, no, I actually live over here. And then there were a couple of other things. No, I do this. And pretty soon it says, yeah, this isn't going well. I'm out, because I don't know who you are, and I don't know what you're trying to accomplish. So it was just that easy, and that all popped up in just a couple of messages. Trish says, I think that is good first date convo. What are you looking for? I usually ask my date. That's awesome. That's exactly right. And you should be prepared to answer the same question. What do when you ask the question, what are you looking for in a relationship? Be prepared to answer. Not somebody is not always, your date is not always going to ask, but odds are if you ask first, they will reciprocate. So um, you have to be prepared with your answer also. But I like that on a first date, because then you're not wasting a lot of time and a lot of emotional energy in something that, oh, this has so many has such great prospects and or great possibilities, and then only to find out that you're on a different page about a number of things, and it's like, oh, damn. And like Trish, when you ask it on the first date, you're ending things quickly, or you're setting things up to progress, to move forward, and you're moving forward on the same track or the same pages as the other person. So, and so it's so important. Hey, Lanny, thanks for joining in. Let's see what Lanny says. Is the feed hanging up, or is it just me? I'm not having any problems on my end, Lanny. What you might do is, and what I found that often helps, is to log out and log back in, or X out of the feed and then X back in. Mike says it's all clear on his end, and Addie says no issues here. So yeah, Lanny, just X out of it and then come right back. I'll give you 30 seconds to do that. I'll just kind of la 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 la. Anyway, so while we're waiting for Lanny to jump back in, it's in the conversation I was talking about this weekend. One of the things that and it was extremely difficult for me to convey that she needed to create her must-have list, and I think there was some fear about being specific. She's been married, if I'm not mistaken, 4 times, and a couple of those were to people with addictions. I think both drug and alcohol. So when you've had those kinds of relationships, I would think it would be even more important to want to be specific about what you're looking for, and hopefully she's paid attention to the warning signs that she's learned from her addicted partners, and that those would be things that she could either add to her deal breaker list, or hopefully flip those around and add those to her must-have list. So it's and that's how this all starts, is when we were 18 years old or 16 years old and started dating, we didn't know what we wanted. We just went by looks, and for the most part, maybe a little bit of personality, and if guys could make the girls laugh, and vice versa, things were fun. But today, when you're 40 and above, it's so important to pay attention to what specifically you want in a relationship. It's so important to be focused, because we don't want to make the mistakes we made when we were in our teens and 20s. We don't want to do that again, or you shouldn't want to. The idea is to make smarter, healthier decisions for yourself, and want to move your relationship, move through your dating life a little less effortlessly. And I'm not saying that it's going to be easy, but it can be a lot simpler than it is. I hear so many people complain about there's no good guys, or there's no good women. All women are high maintenance, or all guys are liars and cheaters. Well, there are some out there, but there are a lot of good guys also. And I think when you focus on the negative, that's when you're going to find the cheaters. That's when you're going to find the liars. That's when you're going to find the high maintenance women. So, and ladies, no offense. Everybody's definition of high maintenance is different, and mine's pretty straightforward. If it takes you 3 hours to get ready, you're probably a little higher maintenance than I'm used to. But those are characteristics that are individual to each of us. What we're willing to accept and what we're not willing to accept. And don't worry if somebody says that you're too picky. Don't worry if someone if someone thinks that you're unrealistic. I've had conversations with several women over the years that said, you'll never find somebody like that. And I go through my list, and guess what? They meet virtually everything on my list. And not everything has to be about looks or money. It can be about being a helper around the house. It can be, one of my favorite ones is being able to dance in the kitchen. And I don't mean to music. I'm talking about being able to work in the kitchen together without tripping over each other, and just kind of having a good general feel for where the other person is. Let's see. 30 minutes is too long to get ready. Well, that's, depending on your situation, it could be. Other times I know it takes longer. Let's see. Addie says, depends on the occasion. Absolutely. Lanny says, I think 30 minutes is acceptable from a man's view. Well, Lanny, in some situations that is, but you also have to understand, depending on the woman, if she's got longer hair, if she's taking a shower and putting on makeup, and you got to expect an hour to an hour and a half. There are just things that take ladies' time. Addie says more than an hour is too much, even for a fancy occasion. And Teresa says that includes shower. Wow, you get ready fast. Oh, asking, no, she says, Teresa's asking if 30 minutes is too long. No, it's not too long. My comment about 3 hours is time. I always expect anybody that I'm dating will take an hour to an hour and a half to get ready. If it gets to, for me personally, and everybody's different, if it gets to be more than an hour and a half, then it's like, then then I have to question, how high maintenance, what's going on besides. Lanny says, yes, depends on the occasion. And Addie says your outfit should already be picked out. Absolutely, that's a great observation, and that's one of the things that I've taught for years is that you have especially a first date outfit picked out, so that you don't have to worry about makeup, you don't have to worry about the shoes or the jewelry. You have it all set up. You know what makeup you're going to wear with this outfit. You know what shoes you're going to wear. And that will take a huge burden off you, a huge stress off of you. And, I'm sorry, I'm knocking things around here. So, that's a great observation, Addie. I totally agree. Guys, it's not quite as, we're not quite as detailed as that. Depending on the situation, you're going to put on a pair of slacks and a shirt and maybe a coat, or if it's a real fancy event, you're going to put on a suit and tie. Other than that, it's probably going to be jeans and a casual shirt, and away you go. But ladies, I know you take more time to pick things out, which blouse is going to go with which slacks or which shorts or which dress you're going to wear, and the makeup has to be just right, and that's fine. I enjoy when a woman puts herself together for me. Um, let's see. And Teresa says, when you have 8 kids, you have to hurry, or they may kill each other. Well, there's that. And I always pick it out before I shower. There you go. And so, but even so, especially if it's a first date, have a first date out set aside that it's your standard, your go-to, it, you know, your go-to outfit. That way, you always know, you're always ready. If something comes up in a short notice, you find somebody that says, "Yeah, okay, let's go do that." And within acceptable limits, there may be some minor alterations, but if you're going for coffee or cocktails, you can have the same outfit for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 dates. Shar says, I would want to be with someone who wanted to look nice when out with me. Take some pride in their appearance. Absolutely. I think we all want that, but I think overall, it's Shar. It's guys are we don't have to put on the makeup. We don't have to do for the most part. My haircut, I don't have to do anything. I jump out of the shower and dry it off, and I'm done. We're not blow drying our hair or curling it or styling it in any way, shape, or form. So we have in that respect we have it a lot easier. And but yes, hygiene. Put in some effort, guys. Put on. Take that shower. If you've been out working all day, especially if you've been working out in the yard or working out in the field or at work, come home and take a shower before your date. Allow some time to get that done. Let's see. Addie says at least shave and not smoke like, or not. I'm guessing smell like weed. That's the least a man can do for a first date. I agree. It's just the scruffy look may be okay once you get to know each other a little bit, but it's just clean yourself up. And as Shar says, I could go as is too, but you wouldn't want to go with me. Yeah, well, I think that goes for all of us, Shar. That's and you could go as is. It depends on what you've been doing, Shar. If you've been sitting at home most of the day, yeah, you could go as is. If you've been working in the garden, probably not the best idea. So, or if you've been hiking all day, because I know Shar loves to go hiking. And so there are any number of things that can damage the first date. Hygiene is one of them. Brush your teeth, put on deodorant, gargle. Do all these things in preparation. If you're coming from work, if you work in an office environment and you're going out on a date, have these things in your car or have them in your office and take care of these things before you go out. There are other simple things. If you're a heavy coffee drinker, make sure you have toothpaste or mouthwash to knock down the coffee taste. The same thing with wine. If you're a wine drinker, some of the heavier red wines, they can leave a strong odor, or strong odor to your broth. And same thing with garlic. Pay attention to those things. And I know these are simple, but you'd be surprised how many times people have complained to me, oh, He hadn't brushed his teeth. He didn't comb his hair. He came in ratty clothes. And speaking of ratty clothes, ladies, I don't get the torn jeans. You know, I come from a generation where, you know, people felt sorry for you when you wear those things. But I know they're very expensive and uh, or can be very expensive, and they're laced up, and it's like, oh crap, where'd you get those, out of the rag bag? And I'm sorry, I know, and you know, some of you look really good and can look really good, but you know, it's just like, so, but that's my preference. So, you know, however you guys have, whatever your preferences are, go for it. But always be presentable. But going back to the must-haves and deal breakers. See, these are things that, these little things are things that can be on your must-have list. Must have good hygiene. Must dress for the occasion. And you know, those are little things that you need to consider when you're dating. You know, these can all be deal breakers, and but if you create them as a must-have, you know, you're staying more focused on what you want, and you know, now if somebody comes in and is did not invest a lot of time in getting ready, yeah, maybe they had a rough day, or maybe they were running late and weren't able to do what they wanted to do. That might create an opportunity for a second date. But if they do the same thing on the second date, then probably they're done. Just saying. You know, but each of you is different, so it's whatever each of you wants, what each of you will tolerate in a date, and you know, I am of the belief that if you're not completely specific in what you're looking for, it's like going on vacation and saying, yeah, or taking a road trip and saying, yeah, we want to get to New York, but not having the road map. You know, it is, you know, depending on where you live, you know, I can jump on I-70 and start heading east, but I know at some point I'm going to have to change highways somewhere. And if we don't know exactly what we're looking for, if we don't know exactly what we want in a relationship, we're going to continue to wander through the dating desert and never be successful. You know, I guess there's a saying out there that you know, even a blind hog finds an acorn now and then. But the point is, let's make this a lot easier on ourselves. Addie says, yeah, punctuality is a must-have of mine. Absolutely. And see, that's one of mine too. That's a pet peeve, when somebody runs late. And now there are certain circumstances where you know, it's understandable, but on a regular basis, you need to be punctual. Teresa says, one of my, not really a must-have, but make me feel special, is opening my car door or letting me walk ahead. What do you think? I think that should be on your must-have list if he can't be a gentleman. Now, let me step back. You can train him to be a gentleman. You can sit in the car and wait for him to come back and open your door. You know, you can walk ahead and get to the door of the restaurant or wherever you're going and wait for him to open it. If he doesn't, you just stand there, and you will train him. Or you'll find out really quickly that's not his character, and it's time to move on. So I think that's an absolute bottom line must have. But that's me. And Mike says, Teresa, that's a good way to show some class. Absolutely. My opinion, Addie says, my opinion, nothing wrong with that. I look for chivalry in a man, like the old school ways, or I like the old school ways. Absolutely. And Teresa says, I like it. And And Teresa says, I have waited out. There you go. And see, that's how you train a guy. And if he's not going to pay attention, Teresa, if he's going to ask you what's wrong, and you can just say, I'm waiting for you to open the door. I expect to be treated like a lady. And if he just says, oh, come on, get in the car. You can get in the car, but it should be the last date. It should be you can just say, okay, just take me home. We're done. And those are the things that are good indicators of what the rest of your life will be like with someone. If you go out on a date, it should always be you should always be looking. Can you picture yourself with this person? What kind of conversations are you having? What kind of reactions are you having? What kind of good reactions or adverse reactions? What are you thinking? What are you feeling? And these are all things that you need to take into account. And so many times we get lost in the moment, and which is a lot of fun if we're having a great time. It's easy to get lost in the moment. It's easy. It's easy when a conversation just flows. It's easy when you connect with someone, and getting to know someone is much easier that way. But sometimes you have to poke and prod and figure out what's the underlying motive, or is this the way they're like? Are they just acting for the time being? Is this a facade, or is this who they really are? And you can notice by how they treat people, how they treat the waiter or the staff. If you're out for cocktails or coffee, or a dinner or a movie, whatever it is. And especially if something adverse happens, how do they react? What is their personality? These are all things that you can be watching for. And even on a one and done date, you can find a couple of things to add to your must-have list, or things that you'll add to your deal breaker list, or add to your would be nice to have list. There are so many ways of discovering who you are and what you want on first dates. There can be a lot of fun and a lot of learning. Some of it, not so much fun. But afterwards, if it's a terrible date, number one, you're going to have a good story to laugh about with your friends later on. But you're also going to learn something about yourself, what you tolerate, what you won't. So these are all things that need to go into consideration. So it's so important to make sure that your must-have, or that your deal breaker list, or your these are things that I don't want in my next relationship. Make sure that list is short. Make sure, because that's, again, as I said earlier, when you're focusing on the negative, when you're focusing what you had in past relationships, that's exactly what your mind's eye is going to focus on. It's going to pick out these people. And I've told this story, and I'm sure many of you have heard this before. But I had a gal in one of my seminars, and she said, Rick, I never wanted to date a smoker. And I said I would never date someone that smokes. She ended up dating the guy for 5 years. They talked, and she liked him, and she didn't have, and because he was a smoker, she recognized him. And he said, yeah, I'm going to quit, and so, yeah, no. When you quit, then come back. When you've been smoke-free for a year or 2 years, then let's talk. But not now. You haven't quit. So for 5 years, she was with a guy that said, yeah, I'm going to quit, I'm going to quit. And she violated her own boundaries. But a big part of that was because she said, yeah, I don't want to date a smoker. And she was focusing on the negative, and she found a smoker. So that's the whole point. Shift as much of your stuff on your negative or your deal breaker list or your don't want to have list Shift as much of that as you can to your must-have list. Addie says, it's somewhat bad. It's somewhat bad. I sometimes sabotage myself when a man is almost too perfect. I almost feel it's an act. Almost too good to be true, and I'm waiting for the bubble to burst. I know I need to change my mindset. Well, Addie, that's an interesting point. And that's not to say that something won't happen down the road. But don't always look a gift horse in the mouth, as they say. Don't sabotage that potential relationship. If he is acting, if it is a facade, it will show up sooner rather than later. You just have to pay attention to it, and don't start getting these thoughts. Well, I'm waiting for something to happen. I'm waiting for something to happen. Then once something little happens, then it gets all blown out of proportion. I know. I've been there. I've done it. So just be careful about feeling too good. And just look at the good and just make sure. That, and that's another reason to have your must-have list written down. That's not something that I've talked about tonight. It's got to be written down. If you don't have it written down, you're not going to remember. When's the last time you went to the grocery store without a shopping list and came home with everything that you needed? I know I can't. I can have only 3 things on my shopping list, and I forget one, and I'll come home with 2 other things that were not on the list. So it's so important to be able to focus on exactly what you want, and to be to set your boundaries, and your list will help you keep your boundaries. If you say these are my must-haves. And he has, again, 19 out of 20, or she has 19 out of 20. It's much easier to stay focused on what you want and say next. And here's another thing, and we'll start to wrap it up. But every extraordinary couple that I've talked to, or soulmate couple that I've talked to, have told me exactly the same thing, almost word for word, and it's that their partner has brought more to the relationship than they ever could have imagined. So that's another thing to remember. I don't care whether you've got just 5 things on your list, or you're like me, you've got 36 things on your list, or like a gal that I worked with a few years ago, she had 60 things on her list. Now, the longer your list, I'm going to admit, the longer your list, the harder it is to find. But but if that's what your list looks like, then that's what your list looks like. It's up to you. It's what you want, need, and desire. Teresa says, I'm bad about just coming out and saying you need to change or fix this when something is wrong. But I have learned to go about things in a different way, a positive way, and it comes across as caring and not making the man feel bad. It ends in a fuss the way I used to do it. It does. But by the same token, you're not there to change or to fix anyone, Teresa. That's not your job. Your job is to find the right man for you. And if you've got somebody that you need to change or fix, unless it's something like, would you please close the door, the closet door when you're not in it, or would you whatever, would you put your clothes in the hamper? Those are simple things. But if you're in a new relationship and you're trying to fix somebody or trying to change somebody, don't do it. It's the wrong relationship already. Addie says, that's when I would find the don't want in those moments. Um, and that's fine, because a lot of dating situations, a lot of, you have to date for a little bit of time. If he has everything on your must-have list, doesn't mean that everything is going to be neat and smooth and cool and fine in all respects for the rest of your life. There are a lot of other components. Your must-have list is just one of those components, because you still have to develop an intellectual, a spiritual, an emotional, and a physical connection. There has to be, I personally believe, you need to speak similar love languages, and then there has to be chemistry. There are all these components that have to come together all at the same time. And so you have to be prepared to have a lot of one and done dates. And it's not always fun. And it's not always easy, but it is simple. Teresa says, before I speak now, I really try to think how I would like to be treated, the way I treat him or anyone. Treat with love and kindness and not selfishness. Absolutely right. But that doesn't mean, Teresa, that you have to put up with garbage. That doesn't mean that you have to accept everything that he does or says. No. If it goes against your grain, if it's something that's not on your must-have list, or he displays deal breakers, then it's time to walk away. Not try to fix anyone, and not try to force a relationship to work. She says, "Oh, I know. I just know at the same time, we all have things in us we need to fix as well. I'm not changing anyone." Well, that's good. And if you have things that you need to fix or to change, that's great. You can do that on your own, and be a better person for the next guy that comes along. But it's always, it's always, we always try to fix somebody else. We rarely take a look inside. So we need to focus on us. What can I do better? How can I be a better person? How can I be more extraordinary for my soulmate? And those are the things that we should be looking at. And with that, I'm going to wrap it up. Work on your lists, and if you've got your must-have list already, go back through it and see if there's anything that you need to add, or like in my case, I've had a couple of things that have changed just because of time and of age. The things that were important to me 11 years ago are not quite as important. So there's a couple of things that are shifting from the must-have to would be nice to have. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's conversation. I did, and I appreciate all your input. Thank you all for coming and sticking around today. You're welcome, Addie. You have a great night also. Have a great and blessed week, everyone. I'll see you next Monday. I will be back in Michigan next Monday. And it's just a crazy week here, getting 6 loads of laundry done since last night, and starting to prep and turn around and head back to Michigan. So have a great and blessed week. I love you all, and share this. Click the like and the like button on Facebook, and on the thumbs up on YouTube, and share this with your friends. Click the share button, and let's get this out into a dark and dreary dating world. Thank you, Shar. I appreciate it. And we'll talk to you all next week. Love you guys.